The style of the iterating here, like a get next and has next, which is more closer to what we call an iterator. We already talked before in the class section. We took an example that is very close to that. In this time, we just are going to update our code to fit more with the target. The first thing to implement it, as we did and I showed you, you need to take an asterisk iterables. And remember, asterisk iterables is just making our variable number of arguments to be passed. So we here take the iterable, and you know that we are going to iterate column by column as long as they all have element. Once one of them doesn't have an element, we break. So that's why I'm using the current index here. It tells me which column is the next column. So to know if we have more elements or not, we need to iterate over all our iterables and check if the current index greater than or equal to the length or not. If any one of them satisfies this condition, then we return it to false. Otherwise, we return it to true. Observe that. Someone might say, okay, this is very efficient. In every step, you are iterating to know if there are more elements or not. What if you just come here in the constructor and just record what is the minimum length among all of these sequences? This is good, but there is a problem that maybe while you are iterating, someone might decide to clear one of the sequences, for example. If this happened, your code will fail because it will keep going beyond the available indices. In other words, to support a dynamic change for the iterables during the iteration, keep checking every time if there are more elements or not. Once you are sure that there are elements, then we know that there will be the length of iterables items to be returned. So we just keep iterating here over all of the items, and then for every iterable, we go to this iterable and extract the current index and put it in this iterable that has a role. And then we return a tuple of all of these items. That's all, nothing more than that. I hope you don't get confused between current index and index. Current index is referring to current column. Maybe it was a good idea to rename it like current column index, something like that. Let's do this change. Current column index. Let's make a replacement here. Let's also replace it in this code here. The better the naming that you provide, the less confusion that you have. So now we have this index is just index of the iterables one by one, and this is which column in each one of the iterables. In the second problem here, we wanted to extend that to something more interesting. We wanted to keep going up to the longest among all of them. So let's see the code changes for that. Again, the constructor didn't change. The function here is going to be changed. We would like to know if there is at least one sequence that is still long. If this is the case, then we can just return true. Otherwise, if all of them are less than the current index, then we cannot proceed more. This is how we shift it. Far from that, the code here is just going to keep going, but we would like to make a simple change. If the item in the current iterable doesn't exist, we will put a none for it. This way we are doing the remaining part. I hope that this exercise gives you a good view how the zip can be implemented internally. One of the strong points in a good software engineer, although we are using a lot of the available functionalities like zip and range, blah blah blah, you should have a good guess how such things are implemented. After the course, if you felt that you aren't aware how something specifically is implemented, go ahead and dig behind it. This is very important. And when you study the algorithms course, there is one more question that you need to raise. To what degree the functionalities that I was using are very efficient? During this course, I'm trying to give you like highlights about the speed from time to time, about the time complexity. But this is actually has a dedicated course. But I'm just trying to put this seed inside you to be careful about how fast is something, how slow is something, and so on. Yeah, so keep that in mind. That's all.